All right, guys. Good morning. So the world's on fire. I don't know if y'all were tracking on that, but the world is on fire. Yesterday, there were three big stories that we're picking up to talk about this morning. As soon as Mario's got his coffee, we'll dig into Israel striking Hamas in Qatar, the U.S. involvement through our airbase in Doha. We're going to cover the alleged attack Russia on Poland. So there's an allegation that Russia launched drones against Poland, which is of course a NATO member, which is interesting. And I've got some concerns there. And Nepal has fallen. And that one, I'm going to start with that one because I really want Mario's take for so many reasons on the situation with Israel bombing Qatar in the middle of peace talks. Okay, before Mario gets a chance to chime in on that one, I cannot express how exhausted I am by having our so-called allies, right? Ukraine's been done this at least 3 times now, right? Our so-called allies actively sabotaging peace talks, right? But let's start with Nepal. Aaron Olson asks, did Russia really attack NATO? I don't know. I kind of suspect not. We'll dig into that a little bit more once Mario's online. The thing about Russia allegedly having attacked NATO is all we have to go on there is the Ukraine is saying that we have confirmed that these are Russian drones that attacked Poland. Here's the problem with that. Ukraine has been trying to get NATO, all of the NATO member nations, most especially the US, to get involved in Ukraine and Russia. Not that we're not already involved funding their activities, but Ukraine has been making active overtures and attempts to get NATO allies involved in kinetic strike force on the ground in Ukraine against Russia since the beginning of this conflict. So I, not only that, go back to the bombing of the Nord Stream pipeline, and the evidence seems to suggest that it was Ukraine that bombed the pipeline and tried to frame it as basically frame Russia for doing it in order to again try and drag us into that conflict. So Ukraine has been trying to get NATO and the US involved in the Russo-Ukraine war since it began. So frankly, that added to the several maneuvers that Zelensky, that shithead, has made to actively sabotage all attempts at peace talks. I'm highly skeptical of anything coming out of Ukraine as far as statements, intelligence, or allegations. Good morning, Sunshine.
Good morning. Another one of those nights where my fucking CPAC machine just it went off of the ratio that it's supposed to be on, okay? And it just basically jackhammers the fuck out of my lungs. I can barely breathe. All right.
You need to smoke more.
Yeah, sure.
Resistance training.
So, right. So what happened yesterday, right? So around I don't know what you went over already. So around the time the show began,
I made it a point to put off the Israeli attack on Qatar and wait for you. I was just talking about Russia striking NATO.
Well, they flew an airplane into Poland, and that basically it.
Well,
And
what's going on is Ukraine is claiming that they have proof that drones that struck in Poland were Russian drones. And what I was just saying is basically if Ukraine speaks, they're lying.
yeah, I wouldn't. I would give them no credibility. Their survival method right now. Okay, like their modus operandi is to start a war between Russia and the rest of Europe, the rest of NATO. That's the only card that they have left in their book, and it's one that they're like hiding under their sleeve, and everybody knows that like they're cheating. You know what I mean? It's one of those deals. So
And it's been their modus operandi since the beginning. They've tried several different things. I was just talking about the Nord Stream 2 pipeline bombing, the active attempts to sabotage peace talks between the U.S. and Russia. Ukraine has like that's been their whole thing since the beginning of this mess is trying to get the U.S. and NATO involved in their conflict. At the beginning, that was a political machination. Today, that is a last. That's a last a trump card, as you know, pardon the pun. Basically, it's a last ditch, desperate survival attempt. Uh, Ukraine is just going to have to accept they've gotten their asses beat by Russia, and they're going to have to give up the land that they've lost. Microphone.
well, that requires leadership that actually cares about Ukraine and cares about the
Right.
Ukrainian people, which is not Zelensky. Zelensky appears to be more than willing to sacrifice every last man, woman, and child if it means that he can hold on to power and remain prime minister of Ukraine.
And somehow the whole NATO and the U.S. are still letting him play us like a damn piano, which is to say, with his dick.
Well, it's because he's maintaining a money laundering machine, and he's also maintaining a defense military spending regime going on in the country. Okay, so I think that's. I'm not sure if the United States, if the administration has the ability to not be at war with someone. Okay, I don't think I don't think our economy is structured so that we could, in fact, not be at war with someone without it collapsing the economy somehow. Okay,
Right.
because we've been on a huge tear of military and defense spending since 2001. All right, since 9/11, and I think it's kind of like it's baked into the economy to the point where it simply can't be shut off at this point. It would be like the last the straw that broke the camel's back, if it would. That's why I see like all this provocation with like Venezuela or the larger cartel war, like moving eight destroyers into the Caribbean off the coast of Venezuela, ready to strike them if need be. Right? I mean, as part of the larger cartel narco war. I mean, if it's like Trump is trying to start a new war because he doesn't like the wars we currently have. Okay, it's like I don't. The wars we currently have suck, so I don't want to finish them. I don't want any part of them. I want to start my own war. Okay, like under my own pretenses. All right, that's what it seems like to me. Now, I would be okay with an anti-cartel, anti-South America, all right, anti-cartel operation war like that. All right, that's fine. I've said for years that the only country that the United States has any reasonable, well, really, the only war that the United States has any kind of casus belli against, the only nation would be Mexico. Okay, potentially even Canada. Honestly, at this point,
Yeah, well, Venezuela and the whole triangle of frickin' cartel interests and communists in South America as well. Because let's be real, a lot of the drugs that are being trafficked up to the U.S. across the Mexican border are coming from further south in Mexico, and not just further south than Mexico, but they're also coming from the fentanyl from China, the heroin from the Middle East. That's all coming up through South America, up through Mexico, across the border.
Yeah, the drug trade, the drug trade in the Western Hemisphere is, yeah, you're right. It's more than just Mexico. Okay, it is a massive transnational operation, and it would be a worth. I mean, it's one of those situations where actually killing people would benefit the American people. I mean,
Yeah.
potentially dumping money into Ukraine so Slavs can kill each other. That doesn't benefit the United States, not in the
No,
slightest
not at
fucking
all.
bit.
Not at all. Brother wars at our expense are,
Yeah.
well, they're brother wars at our expense, and that just doesn't make sense.
So
Uh, Real quick, Nunya, Texas on the back 20 says, Morning, and I'm only addressing you directly, Nunya, because you're watching on YouTube. Get your ass over to Rumble, sign up for your free account, and leave a message in the live chat with your Rumble handle. If you want to choose something other than Nunya on the back 20, Nunya in Texas on the back 20 for your Rumble handle, let me know when you get over to Rumble and leave a message in the live chat. And I won't promise you anything, but I'll promise that I'll give away a random free 1 month membership that just might be yours for the taking. So hop over there. And if I don't see something from you on Rumble in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to give one away anyway. And if I do see you on Rumble in the next 10 minutes, you just might be that lucky winner.
right.
So
So let's talk about yesterday, okay?
yeah,
Right around the same time that you went live, all right, yesterday morning, they Israel struck a delegation of Hamas, all right, Hamas negotiators, right, in a in a in Qatar, okay, in Doha, which is the capital, where we have a significant. That is like it's the headquarters of the Fifth Fleet. Okay, we have a large military operation going on in Qatar and have been for quite a long time actually. It's kind of part of the defense strategy. Like we talked about in the deep dive, we talked about the petrodollar, how the United States dollar is effectively tied to the sale and access to purchase Saudi oil. Right, Doha is also part of that, where we have a very large air base there, significant Air Force operation. Okay, now Israel came in and basically bombed Hamas while they were on Qatari soil. Therefore, negotiations which are being hosted by us to try to find a peaceful resolution for returning whatever surviving hostages exist of the October 7th conflict back to Israel. Okay, so Hamas is there. We're sponsoring meetings, and it's about trying to get hostages back. Okay, an altogether noble effort, right? Well, Israel comes in, bombs them, bombs Qatar. All right, expanding their war even further, and then we our refueling aircraft take off from Doha, refuel them after they have bombed a meeting we sponsored, so that they can fly back home to Israel.
right. That is a clear offer of
What
material
what the
support.
fuck? What the fuck is like? Who is in charge? The United States or Israel?
Yeah, and
Who's the tail? Who's the dog? Who's
exactly
wagging who here?
who's wagging who, right? And I see this, and it just feels like again, just like with Ukraine and the drone strikes that they made in the middle of the peace talks with Putin. There, it just feels like again we've got an ally that's actively sabotaging our national interests. And like
That's right.
Mario points out often, look, Israel is supposed to be our strongest ally in the Middle East, and we dump millions and millions of dollars, billions of dollars into Israel, and we get nothing for it. Right? There's no value. There's no return on our investment. And I my only rejoinder to that is ever, while this is true, don't lose sight of the fact that this is the case for every ally the U.S. has. Every relationship we have outside of the United States with foreign powers is a parasitic relationship. At best, at best, those relationships curtail the likelihood of additional aggressions from the various regions where those relationships exist. And that is the best you can say about them.
Yeah, and
And that's essentially being held hostage, right? The guy that sleeps on my couch and eats the food out of my refrigerator and never pays rent,
yeah,
right? Well, as long as I don't tell him to leave, as long as I don't tell him, hey, pay part of the rent or move the fuck out, he won't stab me in my sleep.
yep,
I
yep.
mean, that right there is a reason for his ass to wake up, dead.
You know,
America needs to buy a backhoe and some acreage.
much to my chagrin, all right, Trump has been extremely sympathetic and supportive of the state of Israel. Okay, even though Bibi Netanyahu was, more or less stabbed him in the back right after January 6th. Okay, on inauguration January 20th. Okay, now if we're hosting negotiations with your enemy, and and you come in and bomb it on third party soil where we have like worked for decades to essentially construct that as part of like the linchpin of our military positioning in the Middle East, right? That's so disrespectful. How dare you disrespect us like that? Like, what the fuck has Bibi Netanyahu lost his damn mind? This is madness. You don't do that to your supposed ally. You don't disrespect your ally like that. Come in and shit all over the floor and then tell us to mop it up. Let me ask you this. How about this? At a bare minimum, did Israel even pay for that gas we gave them to get home? Did they even pay for it? Or was that a free fill up? Was that a comps? Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if be controversial is here, but those refueling aircraft, isn't it basically a C-130 where the whole cargo bay has basically been turned into a static free gas tank with high pressure pumps?
Oh, we don't need to be controversial here for that. I can tell you that is what those are. Oh,
Yeah, that doesn't sound cheap to operate.
here I can pull you up.
Be controversial says, yeah, as far as I know. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what you're looking at.
Yep, it is. Okay. Got it.
That kind of a deal, right? Yep.
Major top secret destination unknown. All right. I like
Sergeant
that.
Major says KC-135.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
But yeah, the point remains. It's a big fucking plane. Basically, what it does is it flies up and it hangs out gas lines here, and then the other pilots come up and connect to those in flight. It's let's be real. It's a harrowing maneuver.
Well, you have to play like pilot wings for the N64, like IRL. Okay.
Yeah. Well, basically,
I don't
you're
know
playing.
I don't know if anyone's going to get that reference.
You're playing pin the tail on the donkey at 300 miles an hour. Well, I mean they're going to slow down as much as they can, but still, in order for those aircraft to stay airborne, they've got to be doing 100 150 mile an hour or some. But everybody's doing the same thing. And it's just, oh, it's tricky.
You got to touch tips. Okay.
You have that tail gunner lean. You got to have that tail gunner lean out over the maw deuce and spit on the tip.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah, it is pretty hot, isn't it, Jigglypuff? All right. Yep.
Okay.
Air Force porn star. All right.
So Nunya on the back, and Nunya, Texas on the back 20 says he's driving right now, so he can't make the switch over. So here's the freebie this morning, guys. Let's see who gets it. Tim, it could have been you, brother. Could have been you. I know you're sitting there with His Majesty watching the show, but you just got to watch this one go by.
Who's watching?
All right.
Who's watching the show with Sergeant Major?
We'll call him our cousin, Tim.
Oh, okay.
Tim Lowry. He's a good guy, but he spells his name wrong. Pitt Danny got it. Oh, Pitt Danny. So you'll be watching the special on Saturday. You cannot. Danny, you can't give it away. It's just going to get, if you've already got your membership paid up, it's going to tack an extra month onto the end of it. If you just want to do something, you could always click that little gift button and give one away to someone else for $5 or $10 or whatever it costs. I'm not sure what it costs. I know what it costs me. I don't know what it costs you guys. I think it's $10 for you guys, but I could be wrong.
So, Bibi Netanyahu, right? I mean, he has alienated himself from pretty much any world leader, with the exception of Trump. Okay, and yet he continues to behave in this reckless manner, disrespecting pretty much the last ally he has left. All right, now, I don't want to be this cynical, but what I think's going on is, Benjamin Netanyahu is under investigation, like criminal investigation in Israel. He has been for like 5 years, right? And to delay his prosecution, it's from fraudulent business dealings, okay? Like in the private sector, not related to the government. So he's been getting these procedures delayed, or pulling procedural tricks where it's or government tricks where I can't be prosecuted because I'm the prime minister, right?
Right.
So, and one of the ways that he is holding on to power is by constantly escalating war, all right, in Israel with basically anyone around him considered an enemy, and they are surrounded by enemies. Okay, I mean, I'll give him that. But continuing the war, it's like Zelensky. The only reason what's keeping him alive is the continuation of war. Very much just like Zelensky. Okay. Yes, Aaron Olson. Zelensky and Bibi are doing the same thing, extending war and death solely to retain power. Exactly.
Now, let me say this in their defense, just to be perfectly fair, perfectly reasonable. I'm not going to argue that that's not what's happening. I would, in fact, say that's exactly what's happening. In their defense, I think there's a high degree of probability, especially Zelensky, but Bibi probably to a lesser extent, that they are quite reasonably and legitimately concerned that holding on to power is not just the only mechanism available to them to avoid certain legal responsibilities, legal repercussions, etc. But I think they both have legitimate concern that as soon as they leave their current positions of power, they're going to be executed. They're going to die. Especially Zelensky. I think there's a large contingent in Ukraine that is just going to drag him out in the street and murder him as soon as he's not the president. So, in all fairness, if I found myself in the same position, I would probably do whatever I could to make sure that I retained whatever security it was that kept me alive.
Yeah, Zelensky would be stoned to death by old babushkas. Okay, like thousands of old babushkas would love to take a turn throwing a stone at him.
Yeah, you took our grandsons.
You killed all our sons. You killed our you sent the flower of youth of 2 generations to die. Not only do you deserve to die, like you should be drawn and quartered. Okay, honestly, that's what I would reserve drawing and quartering for. But yeah, but Netanyahu, same boat. If he ever steps down as prime minister, then he's going to be immediately subject to the criminal proceedings that he's been, delaying for years, and there really is nowhere for Benjamin. You think there's nowhere for Zelensky to go? Like Zelensky has more post government options than Benjamin Netanyahu. Who would host him?
Like Florida?
Yeah, Florida. That's it. That's Benjamin Netanyahu's. His only option is Florida.
Santa Steve asks, EB under investigation. You mean like Trump? And I was gonna ask that, Mario. Is there any chance that the investigations that you mentioned related to BB, is it possible that that's just
And it's basically
political opposition lawfare?
Yeah, I guess it's possible, but I don't. I don't. I'm not that knowledgeable about it. All I know is that
Is that they're going
I
on?
know that there's an investigation. I know that if he were not prime minister, like he'd be indicted. I know that if he didn't have like emergency powers because Israel's at war, like he could be impeached, right, removed from office.
Right.
So I don't the veracity of the claims. Yeah, I don't know that, but I do know he is under multiple investigations for corruption.
So let me shift back to Russia and Poland for a minute. Let's talk about that. So Poland says it shot down Russian drones that violated its airspace during strikes on Ukraine. Poland said early Wednesday that multiple Russian drones entered and were shot down over its territory with help from NATO allies, describing the incident as an act of aggression carried out during a wave of Russian strikes on Ukraine. Several European leaders said they believed Russia was intentionally escalating the war, and NATO was discussing the incident in a meeting. It came 3 days after Russia's largest aerial attack on Ukraine since the war began, an attack that for the first time hit a key government building in Kiev. So here's the thing. I don't doubt that Russia made strikes against Ukraine. Obviously, they're at war, and let's be real. Like I mentioned earlier, Trump, the U.S. and Russia have had peace talks, have attempted to negotiate something, but on 3 separate occasions, Zelensky has sabotaged those peace talks, right? And and then again, like I pointed out earlier, we know of at least one point where Zelensky tried to false flag Russia to drag the U.S. and NATO into the war with the sabotage bombing of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, right? Um, all of that information taken together, coupled with the fact that Russia absolutely does not want NATO and especially therewith the U.S. to have an impetus or an interest in putting boots on the ground, makes me highly suspicious of any claims that Russia intentionally broke Polish airspace. Right? That this screams false flag.
It's like the time that that Polish village got bombed, and everybody like screamed bloody murder at Russia, and it turned out they were Ukrainian missiles that basically went off course.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what's wrong with Poland. Okay, Poland occupies that part of Eastern Europe that is called the essentially the butthurt belt. All right, where they're
The butthurt belt.
the butthurt belt. Yes.
Got it.
Yeah. Goes up through the Baltics, down through Poland, and to assorted countries in the Balkans. Right. Poland being the worst of them. All right. Look, I participate on a lot of anonymous forums online. Okay. Very much international forums, and the Polish are constantly seething about Russia. The Polish
Yeah.
hate the Russians. Okay.
Yeah.
They hate the Russians to the point where they can no longer even be rational about it. They're like NATO's barking dog. Okay. That can barely be. That is basically that Germany's constantly yanking the leash on and telling it to be quiet, like shut up, stop it, sit down. You know what I mean? But they're constantly barking, constantly screeching. Russia, 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 Russia. All right. Poland has a problem geopolitically. All right. And I don't know what to. They need to be ignored. All right. If there is any country within NATO that is going to do some type of a foolish operation, whether it be false flag or not, to try to activate that tripwire to do NATO Article 5 and turn it into a world war, it would be Poland. Okay, I don't trust the Poland to behave rationally in this situation. They're seethers and they're butthurt. All right, I'm sick of listening to them online. Honestly,
Um, Be Controversial points out that if anything were happening, if they did go into Poland, it's because it's the major hub for material support to Ukraine. I don't even know of another one. Yeah, that's in fact correct.
yeah, that's correct. Basically, all the military aid that we have sent to Ukraine and continue to send to Ukraine, it enters Europe in Amsterdam. Okay, from Amsterdam to Germany to Poland and then into the Ukraine. Okay, that's how it makes it there. That is the pipeline of war material. What was the thumbnail for this show again?
The world is on fire.
Oh yeah, Nepal. Holy shit!
Yeah,
Right?
we got to get to Nepal.
Oh boy. So
You want to take
I
point
haven't.
on this one for a second?
Sure, I haven't really dug into this story too much. Okay, what I saw of it was basically just what people were like splattering on 4chan. Okay, but it looks like the Nepalese government, for whatever reason, decided they were going to ban various social media apps. All right, in the country, and they did. One of them being TikTok, and it triggered some type of like French Revolution style youth revolution in the country, where the youth went completely feral and started burning everything. They burned down the presidential palace, which was constructed in like 1903. All right, under like British direction. It's the biggest palace in all of Asia. Like it's a historic monument that contained archives of basically the entire country's history. They burned that to the ground. They burned the government completely to the ground. Now,
Yeah,
part of me,
because they took their social media away.
that's right. That's right. Now, as a January 6th irredentist, okay, I'm a little envy of this, but I'm also concerned.
What you said, January 6th? What?
Irredentist. Never again. We must never forget. Okay. Um, so I'm a little nervous about this because the sheer scale. Nepal is like the people of Nepal are stupid. Okay, like they're really stupid. They're probably like the dumbest Asians possible. If you look at them on like the international IQ chart, like they hover below West Africa. Okay, so like national average IQ of like 55 or some shit like that. I don't even think that's
Right.
possible. I think that's wrong. But the bottom line is these are people essentially meant for a specific environment, and that's it. All right, which is high altitude Himalayan people. They destroyed their entire country and their history.
They eat guinea pigs.
Yeah, they burned down their country, and they destroyed all of their national history, like Library of Alexandria style, over apps getting banned by the government. So
Yeah, they took the minister of finance out into the river and stripped him naked and beat him down the river.
a former prime, the wife of a former prime minister, was burned alive in her car. Like it's sheer madness. Like it's sheer hate on the ground on the ground there. Um, between the citizens of Nepal and that government. So I don't know the 100% backstory here, but it's
So
madness.
I'll devil's advocate in their defense. The government shut down TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, basically all social media. So in the public's defense, that is akin to our government just coming in and unilaterally abolishing the First Amendment. That so the headlines say things like this. Oh, protests against Nepal's social media ban grow more violent as demonstrators set buildings on fire. Against Nepal's social media ban. Okay, when you frame it like that, it sounds pretty trivial. It's like, well, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. We took your silly cat videos away, so you burned down the whole country? Ba, 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 ba. How about I've got an analog for you. Maybe if your government starts throwing you in jail for, oh, I don't know, teaching your cute little pug how to throw a Zig Heil here and there for chuckles, maybe that's the time you should start burning down buildings, right? Maybe that's the reason for a Second Amendment. And who knows? Maybe, just maybe, if places like Nepal had a Second Amendment where all the citizens were armed and they could just kill the government, they wouldn't have to burn down the buildings. Because if anything is true, about dealing with a corrupt government, the physical infrastructure are more valuable than the individual politicians, especially to the continuity of the culture.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I hate seeing culture, like all that history, all those archives. I hate to see that destroyed. I hate seeing the destruction of culture, even if it's not my culture. Okay, I am a humanitarian in that respect. Like preserve our heritage sites. Okay,
Right.
if something's old, if something's ancient, if something's got like a story behind it, leave it there. Okay, don't be like don't be the Taliban. All right, don't be ISIS. That's what they do. They destroy history.
Don't BLM.
Yeah, don't BLM. No shit, right? Yeah, I loved those memes back in 2020, showing ISIS destroying like the museum in Mosul, right? And then BLM doing the exact same thing. Not to get us too far off topic, though. All right. So,
Oh god, this was going to be hilarious, but the spelling is bad. Okay. Oh, we were talking about the Polish in Article 5.
yeah.
This is supposed to say Article 5, but it's close enough. I mean, the fact that I was able to slap that together that fast is impressive all by its own. Oh,
The seething facial expression.
yeah, the seething face. That's excellent.
Was that in the prompt? Was that part of the prompt? Seething face.
Oh, let me see. I describe it as determined yet comically focused. I didn't actually use the word seething.
Okay.
But yes. But yes, I did describe the face.
Yeah. So if he fleshed it out a little bit, it was all social media that they were effectively banning, unless it was a government liaison for the company, like basically actively monitoring the situation. Okay. So, yep, I get it. You know what it reminds me of? Remember like good gosh, like
Nina Jankowicz.
7 years ago when the Sri Lankans like rose up and burned down their entire government.
Yep.
Like just started executing people en masse. That was because the Sri Lankan government like adopted every single green resolution from the United Nations, and it created like Great Depression tier economic disaster in the country, and the people rose up. It kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah.
Where people are so pissed off they just burn everything in sight. There's no reason behind it anymore. There's a certain point where a society goes feral, and the United States will never be there though because of diversity. Unfortunately, there's There's too much division within the country for there ever to be a unified resistance. I feel, at least at this time, that could change.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. Shit. We've covered a lot this morning. I think. I think that's all I've got this morning, Mario.
Me too. And I got other stuff I need to do. So.
Roger that. All right, guys. Well, let me.
I'm sorry, guys. I literally woke up 5 minutes before the show went live. Okay, so this is not a top tier performance from Mario. So forgive me, guys. I will do better.
So let me throw this at you real quick. I'm gonna kick you. I'm gonna kick you off to the side for a minute there, Mario, while I do this one. Do. All right. So if you haven't already noticed, make sure if you haven't already done it, make sure you download the Rumble app. It's free, it's simple to use, and the best way to stay connected to the content you want. Once you've got it, search for my channel and hit follow. That way you'll get a notification every time we go live, every weekday morning at 0730. No shows, no extra steps. You can grab it right now using the link in the description or the pinned live chat. Download it to your phone, and you're ready to go. And if you prefer watching on the big screen, Rumble is available on all major streaming devices and smart TVs. Just search for Rumble, follow the channel, and be part of the action. Okay? So you guys knock that out. And when you're watching live during the show, right, these are the requirements. I need you to be signed in as a unique user, watching live, and having left a comment in the live chat, not in the comment section, but in the live chat, to be eligible to receive one of the random free 1 month premium subscriptions that we give away periodically throughout the show. So thanks for sticking around and letting me read that ad to you. We have to do a few of those, and they do pay us for those. A little bit. If I'm being honest, Mario, they don't pay us enough to interest me in doing those. They don't pay us enough for the campaigns for me to be interested in doing the campaign reads like that. But they make reading 5 of them a month a contingency for keeping a paid status where we actually get paid to do the show. So
Fee says he won't. Remember, he will not change for you. Okay. Yes. Very, very, very clever, Fee. Using my own words against me. Okay. You are correct. I will not change for you. Perhaps I will change for me, though. Okay. And then you can just all go along for the ride. All right.
One can hope, but past experience is no source of hopefulness. So thanks for watching this morning, guys. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow.